We thank Danny Koch for that incredible introduction that we get to use at the beginning of Simply Sarah. Welcome. I'm Sarah Stockham. I'm so glad that you are here. And as your host, I just want to take a second to share some places of gratitude that I have. One for Lamano Art and the artofforgiving.com, and for the Stegner family for their incredible support, and also for Katie Ingersoll for joining us as a team and saying, yes, this is a place to be encouraging other people to take a look inwardly, spiritually, and determine if they're ready for a next step. And so we also want to say welcome and greetings to Michelle Walsh. Michelle, we are so glad that you are here, and would just love for you to share a little bit of your story, because it wasn't a straight line from the point that you were an educator and then helping coach and Weight Watchers, and now doing the Village Well along with writing. Tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the things that you perhaps, areas that may have come in perhaps with a little bit of conflict, or areas that took a little bit of time to kind of smooth out as you were doing these incredible evolutions in your business.
Well, I think like most of us, we come in and we're not quite sure where we fit. And it sort of can be a trajectory of figuring out like there's nothing wrong with us. So I was always a little who had talks a lot on her report card. And I was also someone who just kind of, for lack of a better description, didn't really have boundaries, didn't really have a filter. I was just naturally curious. And I've learned how to holster that and find that again as I've gotten older. But I think one thing I've always found comfort in is in being in community with folks. And I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. There was something about a classroom. It was almost like a family. And so that's kind of what launched me. And then I stayed home to raise our daughters. We have 5 of them. Holy smokes, twins out of the gate. There's a whole story behind that whole thing. And then eventually became a Weight Watchers coach, as you mentioned. And it was never about the weight loss. It was more, again, about the community. And what I saw happening in the meeting room were these like sparks of magic between people who really wanted what was best for the other. And then I started this little gig called My Village Well. So that's my whole life story. There it is.
How did you go from no kids to twins out the gate, friend?
Well, there was a little bit of help from the creator on that one. My husband had been married previously and had 2 children. When I came onto the scene, they were 9 and 11, and I was 23. So imagine that, if you will. And he had he had had a vasectomy with his first wife. So we knew coming into our relationship that we were really going to need to rely on something bigger than us. And we chose to go through with a reversal with no promise of what would happen. And this was 88 million years ago, before IVF and all the things are that they are now. I mean, it was a long time ago. The twins are 25. And I just remember the doctor coming into the room and saying to us before, he was doing the surgery, like, well, when we're in there, we're not sure what we're going to find. Do you want us to bank sperm? And I was like, can you give us a second?
Right.
This hadn't even, and my husband and I both came to the conclusion that if it was meant to happen, it would happen the old-fashioned way, and if not, we would look at other things. And out of the gate, we found out there were twins. So we felt like there was something way bigger than us in our trusting process, and that sort of laid the ground.
Yes, definitely. And then to have not just one to take care of, but literally during the night to have 2 different voices saying, hey, I have needs. And so how did you work through that sleepless part of it?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I realized, like, if one of us was going to be up, we were all going to be up. So tandem nursing was the way to go for me. That helped me sort of get through. And to be really honest with you, Sarah, like, I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get both, two breasts, two babies. I'm going to figure this out before I get out of the hospital. And
Yes.
it was like so many things, trial and error, and just learning how to really trust myself that I could do this, and I could also ask for help if I needed help.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah.
Those are two huge things, to trust yourself and to know that you can ask for help. Wow, those are powerful pieces. And to be 23 and saying, this is how we're going to move forward, that's really a beautiful, beautiful foundational piece to then what you help people do later on with your coaching. When you moved into the Weight Watchers coaching world, was that in person then, or had that moved online?
Yes, it was in person, and I joined myself as a member after I'd had my third daughter, and lost 100 pounds. And through that process, realized I really loved being with others in the meeting room, that community that I've talked about, that you're into as well, that community. There's something. And I'll tell you the other thing, there's something about leaving my kids and being like, peace out, bye.
Right.
Mama is going to go take care of herself for,
Yes.
an hour. Mama, you don't have access to mama for 1 hour. Mama gets to go and take care of herself. So I realized through that process, like, I could totally do this. This would be so fun. And that's what it ended up being, a lot of fun in the meeting room.
Hmm. And you have such a way of making sure that people are in community, that they are learning, plus the space of having fun. It's not just one or the other. You're real careful to make sure that both of those things are happening at the same time and acknowledging that. And I love that you put the fun into the fundamentals and keeping things moving forward. It's such a beautiful thing. As you were choosing inside of the container with Weight Watchers, what were some of the pieces that you began to notice that women were, primarily women, were struggling with in terms of pieces that maybe psychologically, maybe in their family life, would, if I can use the word cause, I think there's a better word there to put there, but that's the word that's coming to mind now, causing the weight gain or causing the taking in more energy than expending. Were there some commonalities there that you saw?
Well, first of all, food doesn't talk back.
Really good
So
point.
So as we shove it into our mouths, I can just speak for myself. I'm an emotional eater. That was a way that for many of us, we learned to cope, and it's like, we don't know what to do with everything that's on fire around us, but these peanut M&Ms sure taste really super good right now. But then of course we know that there's a cycle with that, right? So it
Right.
tastes good in the moment, and then all of the negative self-talk that comes after that. So
Yeah.
I think the thing that I have learned in my own walk, and granted, I'm about 23 years in now from Weight Watchers to now. I started when I was about 30. Is again, it's going back to learning how to trust yourself. Like, there's
Mm.
no good food, there's no bad food. Like, food is fuel.
Yeah.
So learning what fuel is going to work for you, and some fuel is going to take you further, and then some fuel is, enjoying a glass of wine and not feeling guilty about that, but simply enjoying it. So really learning how to trust. And
Mm.
again, I tried to promote that in the meeting room, like, you're human, you're breathing, you're learning, um,
Mm.
and let's leave the guilt and the shame sort of at the door and accept ourselves for where we are, all the messy, all the beauty, all of it. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yes. Yes. I think that's what the point that you made coming out was saying that um, food doesn't talk back, right? It's there, and it is energy. And so, if you are feeling tired for whatever reason, emotionally even, it does kick. It does give that energy for the moment. And
mhm.
yeah, I think that you nailed it on that. We're gonna. It's a little bit early for us to do this, but we're gonna go ahead and take a commercial break. We'll be right
Okay,
back, and I'm looking forward to the next part of our conversation.
wonderful.
This is Michelle. She teaches women how to forgive the people who betrayed them, not by asking them to talk about it, but by helping them express it through art. She's an art therapist. and the creator of the art of forgiving, a class that turns emotion into expression. No therapy jargon, no pressure to explain, because forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about setting yourself free. This is Michelle, and this is the art of forgiving.
Are you ready to enrich and deepen your relationship with the spirit world and increase your knowledge of the shamanic journey? Then this is for you. The first step of the shamanic journey is to discover your power animal. This process allows you to step into Spirit's energetic field where they share their aspect of the divine's power. And as a result, you begin to realize the significance of their sacred power and what it means to you personally. Katie Ingersoll is a highly sought shamanic and Reiki teacher, a practitioner, a spiritual counselor, and educator. With grace, she integrates the rich teachings of the wise ancient ones into her workshops, encouraging her students to mesh these teachings into their everyday lives. For details of how you can discover your power animal, reach out to Katie at katieingersoll@gmail.com. You can also find her as a qualified teacher and practitioner on Sandra Ingerman's shamanicteachers.com. Katie Ingersoll's classes and workshops are fresh, unique, fun, and informative. Ready to deepen your shamanic understanding? Reach out today. Michelle, would you tell us a little bit about how and why you started My Village Well, a community that is so supportive?
Well, I had felt a calling, a nudge, so to speak. I think many of us, as we become more open, we can hear that a little bit more clearly. But for years, I would push those feelings aside. But when this arrived, I knew that I was being called to do something, but I just didn't know what the thing was. And I was still coaching at Weight Watchers at the time. And it's hard to put words around it, but I just knew that I'm like, is it a book? Do you want me to give a TED talk? Like, what is this thing that you want me to do, creator? And one day after a meeting, it became apparently clear, like a neon flashing sign, when a member walked up to me after I had simply shared something I had done on my own. I would do that often in the meeting room, which had nothing to do with the lesson, but I'm like, we're going to have fun while we're here. And so I'd shared, I made these intention cards because New Year's resolutions really, the recovering Catholic in me feels like they're soaked in guilt and shame. And so I love this idea of intention cards. And I had mentioned that to members. And so Tanya walked up to me at the end of the meeting and she said to me, Michelle, would you be willing to lead an intention card workshop, like for anyone who's interested here? And I was like, are you talking to me? And I took a beat, I took a pause, and I said, yeah, I can do that. And that's sort of how Village Well was born, was with 12 women in my living room creating intention cards, which, by the way, I didn't even really know what I was doing, but I knew I was being called. And so just being open to the process. And so that's how Village Well began.
Mm. And how do people now access that? Because it's no longer just in person. You have brought things online. People from all over the country come together and connect and learn and have fun together.
Yes. And so I've been lucky enough to learn through the process, and kind of go with the flow of where women are, we're women and how they want to gather and what they need. And it started like half-day workshops, which turned into them saying, do you want more? Let's do day-long workshops. And so we would do day-long workshops. Meanwhile, calling on the gifts of other women to step into the space, because I feel very strongly about that, of shining the light on other teachers, other storytellers, and healers. And for a long time, my daughters would help by sharing prayers or leading us through a meditation during a day retreat or a weekend retreat. And now we have those in place, as well as Self-Love Project, which was born from the pandemic. Again, a voice told me, this is what you're doing. And I literally took it to the mat. I'm like, I don't know how to do online. This is 2020. Nobody was really familiar with what we're doing right now, being on the show with you. And I got boots on the ground training. You get a Zoom account. This is how you do it. I was told to call in 6 teachers. And here we are. That was season 1. We're ushering in season 12 of Self-Love Project online once a week.
And you guys meet how often?
We meet once a week on Tuesday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific. And so, I'm really excited to be gathering again once, because we kind of take a break for the summer, like the kids.
Sure,
And then we
yes.
come back in the fall, like school, but fun school, soul school.
Yes.
And we'll start that again come September. And of course, I love being with women for in-person retreats. We're going to Mount Shasta next week, and I literally cannot wait. It's going to be amazing.
So, so, so beautiful. When you do the retreats, do you go back to the same place each time, or do you find different locations to go to?
As of late, we have been open to trying new places, but my Divine Feminine Beach Retreat, which was probably the first one I did, has been in the same spot in down at Pajaro Dunes, the same house. The house is wonderful. We've kept that one the same every October, November. And then just last year we did Sedona. We tried that. And then we're going back to Lake Shasta, or Mount Shasta rather, for the second time in a different home. But yeah, that place is something.
The energy in Mount Shasta, really, there's something about it. There just is. I know that tall mountains are impressive all by themselves, but there is something about the energy of that particular space. And it's so lovely. Would you also speak a little bit to people who are considering putting together a retreat? What are some of the things that are important for them to consider as women who may not know each other are gathering in to learn and to be together?
And this would be as a retreat facilitator, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So first and foremost, as a retreat facilitator, to sort of bubble yourself so that you can sustain that energy flow through the retreat, I would just say before the retreat and after the retreat, don't plan anything. So as a facilitator, just give yourself that buffer. I would say to help women sort of get to know each other and feel comfortable coming into the space, some women are real planners. They want to know what's going to happen. That gives them security. So sort of giving them a flow, letting them know who's going to be there. And then always opening ceremony is such a beautiful place to share, what are your intentions for our time together? Not only for yourself, but for our collective sisterhood. Because when you're sharing space like that, it's really important. There's an energy exchange. And so being really, really gracious and mindful of that. And then I have clear boundaries and guidelines set in place the first night so that everyone does feel safe and supported throughout our journey together. I think that's important too. Not just assuming someone might not talk on their phone at 11 p.m., but actually having that in writing. We're here to rest and recharge.
Yes. Do you send out that ahead of time so that people have a clue ahead of time that they're not supposed to be talking 11:30 night?
We sure do. Yeah, we include that, prior to our gathering, and then we also go over it. Is it part of, some of my villagers are OGs. They've been with me from the jump, but they know that on the first night, we always go through the guidelines because it's a good reminder. And Sarah, to be honest, some of those guidelines have shifted and changed throughout based on real life experience on retreat, where I'm like, oh, I need to add this part. Like this needs to be spelled out a little bit more clearly. So I'm learning too, all the time.
I think it's such a beautiful thing to allow people to know ahead of time what to expect. And but not to have it be so tight that magic can't happen as well, right? And so
Yes.
to allow that flow of uh, when you are gathering together. Have you found that coming together on Friday and then saying for the opening circle, the opening gathering time, and then finishing perhaps on either a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon, that those have worked really well for you? Have you found something else that works really well?
I love a weekend, but I love a 5-day retreat. And the reason why I love a 5-day retreat is because as women, we are so used to going, just even arriving. By the time we arrive on Friday, we really are just arriving on Sunday, and then it's time to go back. So
Yes.
I really love a 5-day because it gives plenty of space to arrive, to settle in, and to soak in the experience. And for Mount Shasta next week, I was talking to my co-facilitator. I said, how do you feel about having a 2-hour window in the afternoon of silence? And she's like, that sounds awesome. Because we are also not used to not doing and just being with ourselves. And so that will be new, and I'll report back and let you know how it goes.
Well, I am so curious. And then when you do your 5 days, what day do you typically start on to run it for five?
Yeah, we start on a Monday usually, and the women come for, dinner that evening, check in, get settled. We do our opening circle, and then we usually depart on Saturday morning with a closing circle and that type of thing. And so I think also being open to where the group sort of wants to go on like a day trip, and also a lot of it, because we're middle-aged ladies, is like, what's the weather going to be like? If it's going to be 90 degrees, I don't know that I really want to commit to, a hike midday or whatever. And so sort of being mindful of that and always giving women an out. All of these are invitations. If you want to stay at the house for 5 days and sit your fine hiney down and read a book and chill out, please do. So giving women permission, like granted, like you do what you need to do to recharge.
Yes, yes. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that you are choosing places where there's beauty and nature around that's accessible, either for walking or for sitting and just enjoying, taking it in, watching a sunrise or a sunset. Those pieces can be so helpful. And it also, um, I think, also supports, I think is the word I'm looking for those who are introverts and those who are extroverts, right? You're looking for the balance between feeding for everybody, not just one particular group that's going to come in for that particular time together. Lovely.
Yes, yes. And I think too, like I had mentioned this silence in the afternoon. I'm
Mm,
I'm typically an extrovert, but to recharge, I need to button it. And so to be mentoring and walking through that with everyone, it's not like I'm going to be talking to my co-host. We are all going to be having some time to, so the introverts are probably like, thank God.
yes, yes, yes. Because introverts need it to be quiet in order to think their thoughts. Extroverts need to talk their thoughts in order to figure them out. And so having
Exactly.
that balance in there is so, so helpful to say. It doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert, this is going to be our quiet time. And sleep if you want to, but we're going to be quiet.
Yes, we're going to be quiet, and also having sacred places that we can visit. Where one of the places we'll be going to is Panther Meadow, which I actually just wrote about it this week. But I had never been to Panther Meadow last year rather. I didn't really know much about it. I knew that Indigenous people gathered there for healing circle. That's all I knew about Panther Meadow at Mount Shasta. And when we arrived, I immediately like sunk. Like, I don't know if you've had that feeling of just like sinking into a place and in awe of, oh my word, there's something here. And did our ceremony, had our drumming, came back. I was someone who had been suffering from plantar fasciitis for close to 2 years. And within a week, it was gone. And I did not expect it. I did not understand it, but I'm like, I think creator knew what I needed
Yes,
when I was in that space.
yes. Oh, tell me more about Meadow. Is it something that you need to sign up for in order to be able to use, or is it just open and available?
No, it's open and available. And like I said, I didn't really know a lot about it, but you can drive. It's probably halfway to three-quarters of the way up the mountain from the base. So it takes
Mm,
a little while to drive.
good.
And we did it at like sunset. So we did it as, the sun was preparing to go down. We walked this path, but it was like there was flowing water and it
Mm,
wildflowers. You could tell this was where snow was, in the wintertime, but it had melted. And I cannot describe it. I cannot describe it. And no, you don't need to sign up. It's open to everybody. And I think God is waiting for us there.
yes. Yes. There really is something about being on sacred old land, places that other people have gathered together, right? And I don't know if it's the imprint of their experiences there,
Right.
if it is a place that God chooses to have more of a space for conversations. I don't know. But there are places that are like that. And when you find one, to be respectful of it and to honor, to be in a space of gratitude for finding it, for having that experience. It's so lovely. So I think that you guys are going to go back again next week, right?
Yes, we're going back.
Yes.
Hmm.
So lovely.
Hmm.
Lovely.
Yes.
So in the village well, my village well, how often does that meet and what's that about?
So, my Village Well is sort of a combination of one-on-one coaching, which I offer to
Mm,
folks who are interested in that, and the self-love project that I reiterated
yes.
about that I talked about, which we meet one time a week online, and then we have different offerings as well. So we also have
Oh,
the day retreats, week-long retreats, weekend retreats, as well as I lead writing classes, and I do that solo, and I also do it with a poet and an author named John Rodell.
mm,
Um, that has been amazing. A community of kindreds who sit shoulder to shoulder online together to write um, without fear of judgment is so liberating for so many of us that keep things locked up inside. Um, I don't know about you, but my diary was read by someone when I was little, younger, and that left a mark on me to not write things down, and so writing has been such a form of
mm.
catharsis and liberation as well. So that's kind of like my village well, like in a
Yes.
shot.
Yes. That's so beautiful. I love that you are encouraging people to write, not just to list out what they have done or what they're going to do, but that space of the emotional part. How do you encourage people to get started in that journey?
Well, okay, first of all, again, it goes back to that trusting. And for so many of us, it's sort of like the opposite of what we did in school, where it has to look pretty, it needs to be right. It did it meet all the, did I do it okay? Grammar, do I have a comma? Nope. When we gather to write, it's sort of like the opposite of that.
Mhm.
And what we do is we use poetry as sort of medicine. Sometimes we use music as medicine to sort of warm the waters. Like, I'm going to read this piece to you 2 times, and then I'm going to offer you some exit ramps to write on. And but be paying attention to what your heart is telling you if you hear something jump out. And so, this week, I'm sure you know this, but Andrea Gibson has passed away. She's wonderful. They are. I will speak of Andrea in present. This wow, supernova of wisdom as Andrea wrote through her cancer. And I used a clip called Love Letter from the Afterlife that Andrea was reading to their wife. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to read it. I knew it would be snotty, snorty. And so I chose to play the video clip. And then we wrote. And sometimes it's for 8 minutes, 12 minutes, 4 minutes.
Mm,
Um, we share in small group without any feedback at all, except a nonverbal thank you, like witnessing.
mhm.
So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think that space of witnessing somebody else can open up such new levels of inner conversation for ourselves. For me, there's a level of permission that shows up in that space Like, I never thought of putting those words together, or I never thought about allowing my brain to go there. There've been kind of these bolsters on the side, right? Um,
Yeah.
and to watch someone else go into a space that I was like, oh, I'm not sure I can do that, and have them be okay in that space and go, oh, they didn't drop dead when they wrote that, right? And so,
It's all ping pong pinging around. We're carrying it in our lungs and our heart and our spleen and our liver. Whether we say we are or not, we are.
right,
Just giving ourselves time and space. Like, I wrote something this week. I'll never share it publicly, but
right.
I needed to get it out, and my small group was so beautiful in the reception of it, and
Mm,
I just was able to work it out of my body, and
yes,
then we move on to the next person. Like, it's not like we go
right.
on and on about it.
Right. It's not a therapy session. People aren't asking you questions or telling you how to get through it or anything. It's just a, here it is, and then the next person, here it is.
That's one
Mm,
of our guidelines, Sarah.
mm,
Yeah, written out.
yeah. I really
Hmm.
appreciate, Michelle, that you've talked about guidelines a couple different times. I think it really helps the expectations. Going back to the extrovert and the introverts, for the most part, are going to be quiet and reflect on. The extroverts want to get in there and fix or talk about it, or share, oh, that happened to you, well, this happened to me. And I love that space of the guidelines that you guys have for the different groups, that this is how we're going to move through things. This is how we're going to listen and fully listen. It reminds me of a Native American um, way of listening, where the person who had the object, whatever the object was, that nobody else could speak. It was only that person's time to speak. And then you went around the circle and the next person got to speak, and nobody else is giving feedback. No one else is disagreeing. You're just sharing what where you are in that particular moment. And I brought that into the classroom one time, where I had some kiddos who were um, needed to always override whatever anyone else said. And if you didn't hold the pencil or the pen or whatever we were using that particular day, if you weren't holding it, you had to hold your tongue. And there was such a deep level of growth in those third graders through that process of being able to go, oh, I can listen. I don't need to fix it for somebody else. And for some, it was really a difficult thing. And yet it was such a excuse me, a helpful thing. They could just, go ahead.
What a gift that you gave your students in that space, because I think for many of us, we don't learn that. If it's not mentored or modeled for us, we don't know that we don't have to fix it, And oh my word, if I could go back and do some things differently with my own children,
Mm,
I would, it's like, what do you need from me versus what do you want from me? I mean, it's like, how do I even ask that question without them being like, why are you asking me that, weirdo? But really just sort of watching my children and growing with them,
mm,
and so the gift you gave those third graders. Oh,
mm. At least for a moment, right? They have that in their backpack at this point as a memory, as something they can choose to look back on and go, oh. And I think that part of it is that we learn how to speak inside of families, or whatever that happens to look like, right? And some families are very, very comfortable talking over each other. It's
mhm,
how they choose to speak. It's how they commune. And
mhm.
there can be absolute places for that. But there's this way also of, I need for you to complete your thought and let me have a moment before I feedback, if that's what you're asking for. And what a beautiful movement that is. It's a different way, right? But there's also a different space for thought inside of that as well.
Well, and as humans, I think that most of us are looking to belong, and like sometimes how we feel like we belong is if you share something, I'm like, oh my gosh, me too. And then I want to share, but then I'm not really actively listening anymore. And so there's something really beautiful that was taught by my writing mentor. Her name is Lori Wagner.
Mhm.
I went through a wild writing series with her, where for teacher training, And one of the things we can do is if something really resonates with us and it's like sticking.
Mhm.
So if Sarah, you share this story, with me, and I hear you talking about these third graders, and really I'm not supposed to comment, I'm supposed to say thank you. Later I can say to you, Sarah, is it okay if I reference your writing?
Mm.
So I get to ask you that question, and then you can say, sure, Michelle, or no, no, thank you. And so there's that, again, that energy exchange of like, I'm asking permission. I'm not just
Yes.
talking.
Yes. Yes. And
Mhm.
when you talk about that, the beautiful thing that came up for me was how equally energetic yes and no were in the
Mhm.
person's reaction, right? In their possible responses. It wasn't that one was preferred over the other. It's a, hey, what do you think? Do you like green peppers on your pizza? Yes or no? Just a
Right.
piece of information, and then moving on that action, taking actions on that information. So beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm here for the learning, kiddo.
And I love that you talk about being a recovering Catholic. For me, I talk about being a recovering teacher because I felt
Uh-huh.
like I had this standard in the classroom of knowing, because I taught in a traditional year, I wasn't year round, I was in a traditional cycle for teaching, knowing in end of April and May, we would be doing testing. And so knowing that that was coming up, that was what I was teach by. Yes, we were doing life. Yes, we were having fun. We were going on field trips. My favorite year of teaching was the year that we went on a field trip every single month, and we wrote about it because I needed it. I came to a point in my classroom where I realized if we didn't have shared experiences, not all the kids had been to the beach, not all the
Right.
kids had gone on a hike. So if we didn't
Right.
have shared experiences, it was really, really hard to pull out of some of the kids, let's do a vocabulary circle. I have nothing to give, right? But if
Right.
we had experiences together now, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter if you've been there 6 times before, now all of us have been there, and now we can talk about it. And when we did this, the rules were such that parents could come along easily as well. And so now it became families or kids who, they all played a sport together, and that, they'd want to be sitting close to each other, and the parents would see each other and be so comfortable together. But just having these shared experiences, and some of them were cooking in the classroom, and some of them were doing ceramics in the classroom. So it wasn't that it necessarily needed to get on a bus and go someplace, although the J. Paul Getty was absolutely my favorite because they got to see all kinds of things there that they hadn't seen necessarily other places. And typically the kids hadn't been to the J. Paul Getty Museum on the Hill. And so those experiences of, riding the tram together up the hill is now a shared experience to be able to talk about, to be able to write about. Now we can talk about vocabulary in a whole different way. And it just made a huge difference for me in my classroom. Plus the fact that for me, talking to a fellow teacher, I've never shared this before in this way. We would take a picture of each of the kids on the field trip. They can be with the group, with their best friend, doesn't matter, but for sure a picture of every single child. And there was a place then, as they were writing about it, that picture would then later go onto that. And we wrote on thicker paper, so at the end of the year we could take and bind it, put a beautiful cover on it, and gift it to the parents when they came at the end of the year for a "We Appreciate You Parents" tea. And it was just something that they could see their growth. The student could see their growth, and was just such a fun, culminating activity from all these other activities that were put in. But I call myself a recovering teacher because there was always this, oh my gosh, we've got to get this content in. Whether
Mm.
you can absorb it or not, it's coming at you because we've got to cover
Sure.
it because the test is coming, right?
Sure. Absolutely. And learning how to, I mean, my word, I felt like teaching was 10%. And then I was over here like acting like, okay, stand up, let's act it out. Okay. I mean, you're just reeling them in. You're like, okay, I'm losing that one. Okay, what are we going to do over here? And so it's that, oh my word, all of these different sort of hats that we're wearing, and
Mm.
yet you're doing it together. I mean, you get so in tune as a classroom, kids can feel each other. We had a kiddo in our class. I taught sixth grade,
Mm.
but way before there was like long acting Adderall. It was like just the short acting. And so we knew that this kiddo needed to go in at lunchtime to take that second pill to sort of carry him through.
Yes.
And he would come back from lunch and we could tell whether he had remembered or not. I mean, and so then you'd
yes.
have a lovely next to him. We kind of gave ourselves permission instead of Mrs. Walsh doing it. Hey, like, I think, did you remember to go? Oh, no. And then, you'd see him get up and like, and so it's just this lovely like community. Like we want what's best for everyone here.
Yes.
And there's no judgment, there's no judgment in it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I also would read to my students after lunch. I came to this also that we needed to have a little bit of cool down time teaching in Southern California, particularly at the beginning of the year, where kids are not used to being necessarily in that schedule. And when I was teaching the younger grades, they were adding on time from the previous year, right? The days were shorter, the class before, and now we're going for a longer day. And choosing to read and allowing, if the kids went to sleep when I read, that was completely fine. And then finding a gentle way, we're all going to get back to work. If one's still on the carpet sleeping, okay, I'll go over and have that one come back and join us. But just gifting that space of, I see you as a human being. And yes, we have this education thing that we're going to be doing together, but I see you as a human being. And when I began to do that, the reflection back from the children then was so similar, that they were seeing me as a human being as well, and really appreciated that. Just the community, as we're talking about here, right? That community of being together and walking life together for that particular school year. And if I was lucky enough, I'd get to go do the next school year with them as well. And those are my favorite years because we already had, the foundation was done. And so now let's just go for it. Let's just soar. And
how neat would that be? Because like you just said, that foundation is already set. And so you're like, let's jump back into the pool. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your favorite, or what have been some of your favorite topics to teach about for you being in front, whether it's with your adults or looking back at your teaching career or with the Weight Watchers coaching? What have been some of your favorite topics?
I think the theme is just really sort of radical acceptance and grace and generosity. Just I have a lot of questions about my faith, and I think God loves that.
Yes, I agree full-heartedly. Yes.
Yeah. And our former priest used to call me the interrogator, and so I'm like, really, venial sins versus mortal sins, okay, and I would call him out on stuff. He would see me like marching toward him. He's like, oh dear, but it's like I have questions, and I think that's what Creator wants us to be in relationship. We don't have to just follow, obey, and so it's sort of this radical acceptance of, oh my word, we are knit from something that the love is so big, I can't even like wrap my head around it. Yeah. So we get into our own way with cultural conditioning and our family upbringing and all of that we're not good enough. And so it's just finding our way back to, you are amazing. How do you own those gifts that you have and share them with the world, and also recalibrate back to center when we muck it up. Whether it's with, a choice that we make, or with our kids, or with our partner, or in our life, how do we get back to center? Because spiraling in the negative doesn't help. So I think in answer to your question, radical self-acceptance, grace for self and others, and generosity, because there's money for all.
Yeah. And I know for myself, when I have messed up and I find my way back to center, and I go and I apologize, I want others to come back to center instantly with me. I want that kumbaya moment. I just want in that moment, right? And what you talk about, that space of grace and generosity, is then for the other people as they are processing how I've messed up, as they're processing, perhaps they just figured it out, as I share with them and ask for their forgiveness, which was something that I found myself going to church for Ash Wednesday and listening very intently and walking away going, how does this make me a better person? How does this impact who I'm going to become? And the
Mhm.
thought for me this last year was start asking forgiveness. And
Mm.
if you don't have a list of things that you feel like you need to ask forgiveness for, at least start the conversation. And I had one sister who, when I said this to her, I called it the forgiveness tour. I'm on a forgiveness tour. No, I'm not sick. I don't have a disease. I'm just, this is the space that I'm in. But if I've done anything to upset you or hurt you, I'd love to ask for your forgiveness. It became this really, really open conversation.
Wow.
So amazing. I have another sister. I asked her, and she was stunned to silence. This is not somebody who gets stunned to silence easily. And then I was like, oh, can I take these words back? Because I didn't mean to, put you on
Right.
filter with this.
Right.
It became just such an interesting practice for me of listening and going, okay, how does this impact my life for a way that it can make a difference? Because if I'm going to do a spiritual practice, I'm practicing for something, and let's get some of this dross out. Let's refine some of life's energy. And so, yeah.
I love this idea of a forgiveness tour. Like, I love that. There is a difference. There's a concrete difference between saying I'm sorry. It's almost like an exchange, or whatever, and will you forgive me?
Yeah.
It. I mean,
Yeah.
what? And so, wow, what a gift. Oh my gosh, for yourself and for everyone where you ask that question, like you said, everyone's going to have like a different, like, wait, what? What's happening?
Right.
I love this idea. And I actually, I've got those 5 kids, right?
Yes.
You know, I'm probably batting like 40% right now where, 2 of the 5 really like me. And those happen to be the one where the frontal cortex is fully formed.
Yes.
But, we're still learning, right? And so I
Mhm.
had one call me this week out of the blue. I did not see it coming. And she asked for forgiveness. And I was like, oh, honey, oh, of course. Like, I hope you don't have another thought about it because I haven't thought of, I could hear her, but I went, whoa, wow. So I'm still sort of like taking that in.
Yes. I think the thing that for me also, if anyone listening in has ever been the butt of a family joke, like when you start to hear the story being told, you're like, how can I get out of the room? Because I know how this is going to end, right? And so when I asked so a little bit of the background, when I played piano for my sister's wedding, she had asked for me to come and do a mini concert as before the wedding. And so I did this. So I go and I find the dress. It's in the color scheme. Girl, I've nailed it. It's just, I've got this really going on. This is 1984. And I don't sit down in the dress. I don't need to because on me, it's it.
Okay.
I sit down and my sister is sitting up in the loft to be able to watch. So no one else can see that she's already dressed, but she's there for this, right? And my to-be brother-in-law is someplace else also, so you can see. I sit down and girl, I have a slit that comes up to almost the panty line. And I'm in this really, really like, it's an old chapel. This is not the look to have in this particular place. And so I realize this and I do the best that I can so now the slit on the other side is much bigger, but the walls over here, the wood and all that's there. So
Yeah.
in my forgiveness tour, when I talked to him, I brought this up. The next time this story comes up, it will never have that sting again for me because I have owned it and I have said, I'm sorry, or whatever I needed to say, or, is that still something that bothers you? Able to say, and it was just such a healing, something I wasn't expecting, such a healing thing for me.
Oh my gosh, how tender is that? Oh my gosh.
Such a funny memory.
Oh, I mean, it's only been 30 years, but it's like how you can replay it to a T.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. So if with your permission, I'd love to steal the forgiveness tour idea and
Absolutely.
I will start it immediately.
You don't need to wait for Ash Wednesday.
No, no,
Yeah. Michelle, I have absolutely loved our time, our conversation, the heart to heart, the opening up, all of this. And we have ample time, but I would love for you to just kind of reiterate some of the things that have been important to you that our audience soak in as they listen.
Well, I would say first and foremost, um, if you get a nudge or a poke or a feeling when you meet someone, see something, something comes across your path where you're like, oh, it's so weird. I've been thinking about going to this place or whatever. I would say lean in because, nothing is promised. And so I have learned this time and time again. And I think I learned it with my mom as I walked her through cancer, especially, is that there's nothing promised. And so please, please, I want to encourage you to listen to your own heartbeat and go to where you're being called and to make time and space for it. And if you don't know how to do that, it's okay. Sometimes it's helpful to be in community with other people who are doing the same thing. So you're all sort of learning at the same time. But those would really be my parting words is listen. We're all made of that magic stuff. And it's like the compass, it's paying attention to that compass and doing the thing that you're longing to do. Yeah, that.
That's so good. So as you look at all these beautiful things that you have created, you look at your trajectory, you consider what's coming ahead of you. What are some pieces that you consider or are thinking about mulling over maybe of next steps, things that you are considering?
Oh, well, next steps I'm considering, Sarah, are hormone replacement therapy. And that may
Do it.
not have anything to do with like the village, but it does. And it's me paying attention to,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not quite feeling myself. What is this about? And asking for help. And so I have an appointment on the docket to look into that. Because I've got all the supplements in place and I'm eating well and I'm
Yes.
moving my body and I'm doing all the bullshit, Sarah. And I need a little help. And
Yeah.
I'm recognizing that. And I can also look back like on our mom's generations and
Mhm.
be oh, that's why, like, she wasn't so happy, and I
Yeah.
really want to step into this next chapter with, a little more grace, a little more acceptance, a little more generosity, for what my body can do for me, not necessarily what she looks like, and the fact that I'm still here, baby.
Yes. Yes. And you have your energy is still up, right? You're doing all of those different things. I celebrate that you are going to have this conversation. And I absolutely know that you are going to come to the right decision for you at this particular time as you are processing this and working this through. I have an appointment like this coming up as well. We relocated and haven't found the person here to be able to
Yeah.
support the next steps. And this next conversation, just next week, is the person. I can sense it, I can feel it, and I'm looking forward to a deeper, longer conversation about this is where I've been and what's worked. Are you willing to support that and help us move forward in this as
I
well?
love that, and that's called advocacy, and I think too as women often we're like, "Oh, that doesn't work," or, "Oh, you're done, you have to take your next patient." I'm not done yet. Like, I still have questions about A, B, and C, like, to have them written down because we can't remember anything, and so to have them written down and to just, "Nope, I'm not done yet," and also permission if you meet with your care provider and you're like, "Mm-mm, not a vibe check." We
Right.
scroll on to the next one,
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if it's the 50s or what, but I'm like, "No,
Mhm.
you're here to serve me."
Yes. And I also think that it's so helpful for them if when we have our questions listed out and we start with, hey, I have some questions, and we can let them do their thing first. But sometimes doctors want to hear, in my experience, hear those questions first and they kind of do their thing. It gives them, if they're introverts, a time to kind of think through how do I best put all of this information together and have this flow, that
Mhm.
can be helpful for them as well. So,
Yes. I'm gonna start with that. I'm gonna lead with that next week, Sarah. Thank you. Hey,
yeah,
I have some questions.
yeah. It suits us well to be because then we're not hiding and hoping that we can fit our questions in at the end. We're really
Right.
saying, "I'm here to help take care of myself. I see you as a team member to help do that." And so with my generosity, I'm going to share with you why why I'm in the same space that you're in. You may have a different idea because of insurance, but let me tell you why I'm here.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Advocating for ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Michelle, I have loved this conversation with you. I have loved our conversations in My Village Well. I love what you are doing, how you open your heart up to help people see things differently, and how you ask permission to be able to move forward on certain things. In other places, you know that you have done the internal work and no longer need to ask yourself permission, but are ready just to show up and do. And I celebrate that today with you.
Oh, grateful, Sarah. Thank you. Heard and received. Thank you.
Absolutely. And as we say goodbye to our audience, we say thank you so much for being here, for taking this in, for listening. There have been several different places that have given you off ramps to be able to take notes on, perhaps, maybe mental notes, to come back to. This conversation is about you and for you, and just invite you to allow it to come into your heart, to be there, knowing that each of these conversations is a gift, an energetic gift. And so until next time, take good care of you.